Over the course of 21 days, I stayed at 21 of the most talked about hotels on the Las Vegas Strip, and now I'm gonna break it all down. I'm moving from the south end of the Las Vegas Strip to the north end, giving you rapid fire 1-minute looks at each stay. The good, the bad, and the stuff no one tells you about. And somewhere in here is a hotel I would absolutely stay at again, and one I would never book twice. Can you guess which ones they are? Stick around to the end to find out. Alright, first up, Mandalay Bay. You've probably seen that giant gold tower from half a mile away. But is it really worth staying here? I stayed in a basic king room, and honestly, I was impressed by how bright and modern it felt. The bathroom was clean, but pretty standard, nothing special. The real star of Mandalay Bay is the pool area. This place feels like you're at an actual resort. You've got a wave pool, a lazy river, and lounge chairs set in sand. If you're coming for pool time, this is probably one of the top 3 places on the Strip. But keep in mind, the location is way down on the far south end. If you're planning on exploring the Strip every day, you're in for a lot of walking or ride shares. One thing I didn't expect was how lively the crowd was. It had a younger, upbeat energy without feeling overwhelming. I actually enjoyed the atmosphere. Overall, I really enjoyed my stay at Mandalay Bay despite it being on the south end of the Strip. Alright, let's move north. Next up is Luxor, the giant black pyramid you can't miss on the south end of the Strip. Checking in here feels like stepping into a theme park. The massive atrium, the ancient Egyptian statues, and that beam of light shooting up into the sky at night makes this one of the most recognizable hotels in Vegas. I booked into the most basic room you can get, and while it was clean and tidy, it was definitely showing its age. The bathroom was small, the shower was old looking, and the furniture was starting to see a little bit of wear. The pool area was actually pretty decent for a budget hotel. It was big enough that you could usually find a spot, and it had that same Egyptian theme carried on outside, which was a nice touch. Despite some of its drawbacks, there is a certain charm that does keep people coming back. And it's always in the conversation when you're comparing budget hotels on that part of the Strip. Speaking of which, let's jump over to our next hotel. The Luxor is right next door to the Excalibur, the medieval castle that looks straight out of a storybook. I booked in a basic king room here to see what it was like as one of the more budget-friendly options on the Strip. And my first impression was that the lobby was lively, and the theme was fun, but it was a bit dated, and the price was hard to beat, but the room itself was only moderately clean and very basic. And the bathroom felt cramped and definitely overdue for a renovation. The pool area, however, was actually pretty solid, big enough so that you never felt crowded, and the castle turrets around it made it feel really cool as a backdrop if you're just hanging out in the sun. One thing I did like about the Excalibur was the Tournament of Kings dinner show. Now, that was actually quite an experience and something I'd recommend you check out at least once. Between the Excalibur and the Luxor, you've got 2 of the cheapest ways to stay right on the Strip, and I'm curious, if you stayed at either of these, which do you prefer? Let me know in the comments. Personally, I'd pick the Luxor if I had to choose. The rooms there felt a little fresher, and the overall atmosphere was a little more interesting to me. Moving north, let's talk about New York, New York, a place that feels like a mini Manhattan smashed into the Strip. I stayed in one of their basic king rooms, which turns out to be surprisingly tight. The bathroom was easily the smallest I saw during the entire 21-night stay on the Strip. On the plus side, the theme here is really well done. The pool area is decent. It's not huge, but it is a nice spot to cool off if you need a little break from the casino. The casino floor felt a little cramped to me compared to some of the larger properties, but the location is great. You're across from MGM Grand and right next to Park MGM, so it's easy to explore. Overall, I'd say New York, New York is all about atmosphere. If you love themed hotels, this is one to check out. Next up is MGM Grand, one of the biggest resorts on the Strip and a spot that really leans into that classic mega resort feel. My room there was pretty basic, and honestly, it felt a bit dated. The tub in the bathroom was so tiny it almost looked like it belonged in a kid's playhouse. But the real standout for MGM Grand is everything outside of the room. The pool complex is massive. There's a lazy river, multiple pools, and tons of space to stretch out. If pools matter to you, this place is definitely a contender. The casino floor is also sprawling. You've got lots of table games, slot machines, a poker room, a sports book, basically everything you're gonna want, plus a lively energy that's hard to match. Overall, MGM Grand is a bit more of a property that's more about the amenities and the atmosphere rather than the rooms themselves. If you want a big resort with lots going on, it's worth a look. Right next door is Park MGM, which feels like a totally different world compared to MGM Grand. I booked in a basic 2-queen room with a strip view. The room itself was clean and modern, but on the smaller side, and the bathroom was pretty tight, although it did have a nice walk-in shower. The pool area is on the smaller side, but they do have 3 pools and one of them is a 21 plus pool. So overall, it's actually not a bad pool area. One of my favorite things here is that Park MGM is a completely smoke-free casino. The casino doesn't smell of cigarettes, which makes it feel a lot fresher than most places. The food scene is also a huge plus here too. There's Italy, this massive Italian marketplace, and tons of other options. Overall, if you want something modern and low-key and smoke-free, Park MGM is a solid pick. Next up is the Aria, which looks like the blueprint for sleek, modern Las Vegas. I stayed in a corner suite. Fancy on paper and mostly lived up to the hype. Sure, when I first walked in, there was a bit of a stale smell and there was some cleaning rags, and they put me on the 3rd floor, which is the lowest possible floor, but all that faded away pretty quickly. Once I settled in, I started to appreciate what makes this place special. The bathroom was standout. Double sinks, a soaker tub with its own TV, and a separate bidet-equipped toilet, which if you've never used one of those, it'll change your life. The pools are beautiful, there's lots of greenery and plenty of spots to relax, and the location is right on the center strip. It's perfect if you want to explore. The casino floor here is a decent size and really upscale. A lot of newer slot machines and plenty of table games, although they did have higher minimums than you'd find at older properties. They also have a really nice poker room. If you're into food, they also had some of the best pho I've tried on the strip so far at Lemongrass. Overall, the Aria delivered, and I definitely come back to this spot. Next up is the Cosmopolitan, one of the most iconic properties on the strip, and honestly one that feels like it was designed for a good time. I booked in a terrace 1-bedroom suite here, and the room itself was modern and clean and split into a spacious lounge and a bedroom. The bathroom layout was a little unconventional, with the tub and shower connected behind glass, but I actually liked it. It felt different, but in a good way. The energy throughout the whole property is young and lively, and they have 2 pools at the Cosmopolitan. The Boulevard pool, which was packed and alive with music, while the Chelsea pool was a bit more laid back if you want something a bit calmer. For food, there are lots of options at the Cosmopolitan, but I was staying there on a Friday night and I made no reservations, so I ended up going to the food hall and trying out Lardo's hot sandwiches. I got the burger and dirty fries, and it was exactly what I needed. If you're the kind of person who wants a high energy atmosphere, a balcony with a view, and tons of dining options without leaving the building, the Cosmopolitan has exactly that. By the way, if you want more detail on any of these hotels, I've got full reviews of each stay linked in the description, except for one. There was an unfortunate little accident that ruined my footage, but I'll fill you in on that a little later on. After the Cosmopolitan, we're going to head over to Planet Hollywood, which sits right across the street and offers a completely different feel. A bit more mid-tier, a little less flashy, but still right in the middle of the action. I booked a basic king room, but decided to splurge a little bit extra for what they call an attraction view. The room was surprisingly spacious with a big bed, a separate little lounge area. They even had a mini fridge, which a lot of Vegas hotels don't offer anymore, and the bathroom was another huge highlight. A huge soaker tub, a nice walk-in shower, and a separate toilet area, which always feels like a little bit more of a luxury touch. When it comes to the pools, there's 2 options here. You've got a 21 plus pool for the adults and a family-friendly pool. There's also some games like a giant beer pong or a giant Jenga. They have a surf simulator as well, and they have an indoor area with ping pong and foosball. The food is a big strength of this location as well. You've got tons of choices right on site, but honestly one of my favorite go-tos is Earl of Sandwich. You can get any of their hot sandwiches, which are all $10, which is practically a steal on the strip. If you want something in a central location without spending huge amounts of money, this is a solid option, and one of my favorite budget hotels. Next up is the Bellagio, one of the most famous hotels on the strip, known for the fountains and its classic upscale feel. I booked in a standard king and ended up with a nice pool view. Basically, the entire pool deck was laid out below me. The room itself was bright and clean and bigger than I expected, with a little seating area and plenty of space to spread out. The bathroom was also really nice, double sinks and a big walk-in shower, and a stylish finish that feels high-end. The pool setup here is really nice. You have lots of space and multiple pools, and it never felt crowded. The casino floor here is massive, lots of slot machines, table games, a poker room, and a gorgeous sports book, but the trade-off is that it gets incredibly busy here day and night, even on a Sunday. There's crowds here all the time, so be ready for that energy. Food is also a huge draw here with tons of top name restaurants. If you're visiting for the first time, definitely make sure to check out the Bellagio Conservatory. It changes seasonally and it's one of the top attractions in Las Vegas. And of course the Bellagio fountains at night, they're both classic Vegas experiences you can't skip. Overall, Bellagio feels like one of those places that you almost have to just experience and stay there at least once so that you know what people are talking about because it's such a Vegas icon. Moving on to Caesar's Palace, another classic Las Vegas landmark. I booked the most basic room here as well, just to see what it was like at the entry level. Inside the room was clean and bright, but I was actually supposed to have a king bed. But when I got up here, there was 2 doubles, so I had to go back down to the front desk and ask them, hey, what's up? To their credit, they did give me some food credit for the mix-up, but I still had to stick with that room because it was all that was available. The bathroom was small but looked updated, nice standard shower, modern finishes, just very compact overall. When it comes to pools, Caesars is a serious contender. They have 7 pools in total, each of them with their own atmosphere. The casino here is also huge and full of energy. Tons of table games, slot machines, a great sports book, but no poker room anymore. And if you want to shop, the Forum shops are right inside, connected to Caesars Palace, with some of the coolest Roman-inspired architecture anywhere on the Strip, and of course, the Fall of Atlantis show. I kept dinner pretty casual when I was here, and I grabbed a burger and fries from Bobby's Burgers in the Celebrity Food Hall. It was basically just upscale fast food, nothing too special, but it got the job done. Overall, Caesars Palace is one of those properties that feels like its own little city. You could stay in here for days and have plenty to do without ever stepping outside. Next up is the Flamingo, one of the oldest hotels still standing on the Strip. I booked in a very basic room, but I slipped them $20 at the check-in and I got upgraded to a higher floor with a better Strip view. Definitely worth it. The room itself was clean at first glance, and I liked that it had a mini fridge, which is getting rarer in Vegas. But once I settled in, I started to notice a lot of wear, scratches on the furniture, some burnt out lights, and plugs that didn't work. The bathroom was pretty cramped with a low ceiling and the corner shower that felt almost like stepping into a little capsule. It worked, but definitely dated. The pool here is split into 2 areas. There's the family pool, and then there's the 21 plus Go pool, which is open to the public, so you can come over here and party if you want, even if you're not staying here. One unique thing about the Flamingo is it has a wildlife habitat. Real flamingos, koi fish, ducks, and even a couple turtles. It's free to walk through, and it's a fun little break from the casinos. The casino floor is fairly big. There's lots of slot machines and some low minimum tables, but there's not much of a sports book. It's kind of a weird setup where you have to watch it at the slot machines. Not my favorite. And the walls are really thin here. I could literally hear the light switch clicking in the room next to me late at night. So if you're a light sleeper, be warned. And for food, I actually left the property and walked over to In-N-Out Burger in the Link Promenade. $12 for a burger, fries, and shake. It's hard to beat that deal when you're on the Strip. Overall, the Flamingo has an unbeatable location and some nostalgic charm, but the rooms do feel tired. If you're just here for a quick stay and don't mind a little noise, maybe it's not that bad. But for anything longer, I'd probably look elsewhere. Next is Harrahs, another classic mid-tier option right in the heart of the Strip. I booked a standard king room, and when I opened the doors, the first thing I noticed was just how small the room felt. The bathroom itself was tiny with a single sink and a very tight stand-up shower, and it did look like it was recently updated, so overall not too bad. The pool area had 2 sections, the main pool and the shallow waiting pool. It's decent if you just want to cool off quickly, but there's not much shade up there and there's not a ton of regular lounge chairs if you don't want to pay for a cabana. One thing Harrahs has going for it is location. You're right across from the Forum shops next to the Link Promenade, so there's plenty to explore within walking distance. Inside, the casino floor is fairly small and packed with slot machines and low table minimums, some of them as low as $5. The crowd here definitely skews older, but there's still a lively energy at night. Overall, Harrahs is very no frills, the rooms are tight, the pool is very basic, and it's probably best suited for someone that just needs a cheap place to crash while spending most of their time out exploring. Now we're going to step over into the Venetian, which feels like stepping into another country. Even the standard suite here is bigger than plenty of the other hotel's premium rooms. Mine had a big bathroom, a sunken living area, and a huge window with a great view of the Strip. The whole place feels kind of like luxury meets theme park in the best way. You've got the Grand Canal shops with gondolas gliding through, ornate painted ceilings, and more restaurants than you could try in a week. I spent the afternoon checking out the pools, and there are so many options between the Venetian and the Palazzo that you can almost get overwhelmed deciding where to lay out. If you're someone that likes the blend of over-the-top theming and genuinely upscale touches, the Venetian is an easy contender for your Vegas list. Now let's move over to our next hotel, the Palazzo, which is directly connected to the Venetian. But it has a totally different personality. The Venetian leans into that old world theme. The Palazzo feels a little more modern and refined. My room here was a base suite. It still had a split level design like over at the Venetian, with a separate living room, a spacious bed, and a nice big bathroom, just with a bit of a different finish. One of the standout perks about the Palazzo or the Venetian is that you get access to both pools. If you want to lounge somewhere that feels a little bit less hectic, this is the side I would recommend. I did find that the casino floor here was smaller than the Venetian side, but it is bright and easy to navigate, and you are closer to the poker room that is in the Grand Canal shops on the Palazzo side, so there's a benefit there. Overall, even though the Palazzo is beautiful, I actually thought that the newly renovated rooms at the Venetian felt a bit nicer. And now that you've seen both rooms, which side would you rather stay on? Now let's jump across the street to Treasure Island. Treasure Island is one of those spots that feels like it's caught between old Las Vegas and trying to stay relevant. My room here was a standard king, and honestly it wasn't that bad. The casino floor is definitely geared towards more casual gamblers. You'll find plenty of low table minimums here and tons of classic slot machines. One thing I know for sure is the pool is pretty small, but it's surrounded by so many palm trees that it almost feels like you're in this little island oasis. And let's not forget that there is a CVS connected to the resort, which is just a huge benefit. Overall, TI wouldn't be my first choice if I'm coming to Las Vegas for luxury, but the location is great, especially the pedestrian bridge to the Fashion Show Mall right across the street. It's also a solid pick if you want to save some money and you still want to be in walking distance to the action. Next up is the Wynn. And the Wynn is one of those hotels that feels like everything was designed to impress you the moment you walk in. My room was a basic king, but you'd never know it. The high ceilings, the voice-activated controls, the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Strip and the Lake of Dreams show, it's a really nice standard room. The pools here are absolutely gorgeous. They're big, beautifully landscaped, and way more relaxing than some of the louder spots on the Strip where the music's just blaring. It feels like an actual retreat. The casino is massive and definitely skews upscale. The table minimums here were higher, like around $50 and up, and the whole atmosphere feels a little more polished. And if you're into poker, there is a poker room, but it is on the Encore side. One thing I loved was how this property stays lively without feeling overwhelming. It attracts a great mix of people who just want a bit of luxury without the chaos. Overall, the Wynn easily lands in my top tier list of hotels on the Strip. Between the comfort of the rooms, the energy, and the attention to detail, it's a place I'd come back to in a heartbeat. Now let's head over to the Encore, which is connected to the Wynn. They share a property, but the Encore is the sister property to the Wynn. And the second you walk in, you get the same elegant, refined feel that the Wynn is known for. My room was spacious and split into two zones, a proper bedroom and a separate living area, which is really nice if you're traveling with someone or you just like having a little extra space to unwind. One thing I always notice here is just how comfortable the beds are. It might sound simple, but after staying in so many different hotels, I can honestly say the beds at Encore and Wynn are some of the best on the Strip. The Encore pools are very nice. You've got a main family-friendly pool and an adults-only European-style pool. Plus, you get access to the Wynn pools next door. Overall, Encore feels a little quieter and more relaxed than the Wynn, but just as luxurious. Now we're going to head over to Resorts World. This is one of the newer properties on the north end of the Strip, but honestly, my experience here was kind of mixed. Visually, it's a beautiful place. The casino is huge, modern, and bright, and there's tons of restaurants and shops connected inside. But when you visit it, the whole atmosphere just feels a bit empty. It was surprisingly quiet, especially compared to other big resorts. The room itself didn't blow me away either. It was a nice room, very clean, very tidy, but the bed was one of the least comfortable I've stayed at this whole trip. I was at the Hilton side of Resorts World. The day I came to film, the pool area was closed, even though the weather was perfectly fine, so I didn't get a chance to actually check out the pool. On top of all that, I had some audio issues during my stay, so unlike all my other videos, I don't have a full dedicated review to this resort, but hopefully this quick recap gives you a sense of what it was like for me. That said, there are some positives. They did have a good variety of dining options here, and the property is massive and immaculate. It definitely feels new. Overall though, Resorts World was one of those places I stayed that left me wanting more. Now let's head over to the newest resort on the Strip, Fontaine Bleau. Everything here looks sleek and modern, from the huge open casino floor to all the design touches throughout the lobby and hallways. The standard room I stayed in felt genuinely upscale. It had high ceilings, tons of natural light, stylish artwork, and a really nice layout. But what stood out the most was the massive soaker tub. The pools are another strong point. You'll find these large pools arranged around a center bar with lots of seating and shady spots and lots of cabanas. Whether you're just there to relax in the sun or have a drink and people watch, it's a great place to spend an afternoon. The location is up in the north end of the Strip, so if you're planning to explore down towards the Bellagio or MGM, you're going to be doing a lot of walking or ride shares. But for me, the property made up for that. Overall, I'd absolutely stay here again. Fontaine Bleau feels like a fresh, modern alternative to some of the older luxury hotels. And if you want a premium resort experience that feels approachable, this place definitely should be on your radar. The Stratosphere is the farthest north you can go and still technically be on the Strip, and honestly, you can feel it. The moment you pull up, it's clear this place has a different energy compared to everything farther south. The room I stayed in was pretty basic. Outdated decor, small pillows, and when I first walked in, there was a bit of a musty, stale smell. Thankfully, after a few hours with the vent running, it mostly went away, but first impressions definitely matter. The bathroom itself was also very basic, and the view wasn't anything to write home about. Where the Strat redeems itself is it's a bit of a novelty factor. You've got the tower, which you can ride up to the observation deck for a panoramic view of the city, day or night. The view alone is kind of worth doing it at least once. The pool is pretty no frills. It's just a medium-sized pool deck with some loungers, but the casino floor actually surprised me. It's actually nicer than I would have thought for a budget place like this. Food choices on the property were pretty limited, and overall, the Strat wouldn't be my pick if you're planning to walk the strip every day. It's just too far removed from the action. But if you want an affordable stay with easy access to Fremont Street, or you just want to check out the tower and mark it off your list, this could be an interesting stop. And that wraps up 21 hotels in 21 days. After staying everywhere from budget castles to luxury towers, one thing's clear. Vegas has something for literally every style, budget, and taste. If I had to pick just one place I'd happily come back to again and again, it would be the Encore. And one I just never booked twice, Excalibur. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to please subscribe, hit the like button, and check out the description. I've got links to the full reviews of all these places I've stayed at that you can dive deeper into. But that's it for now. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.